Guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Sunday, August 30th, 2020, and we are almost in September. At the start of the month, I'm going to make my election prediction, my 2020 Senate election prediction, and talk about House and governor races then. I will have an election night coming out in September. It'll be in a slightly different format than regularly, but all will generally be the same. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the missed opportunities for the Democratic Party, and I'm actually surprised that I have not made a Senate video in quite some time now. The last one was released on August 2nd. I've made videos talking about the Senate, but I haven't made an election prediction for the 2020 Senate elections. Usually I do them twice a month. As we start to get into the end of September and then throughout all of October, they will be weekly, just because the map is definitely going to be shifting in the final month of the campaign, and that's when things truly make a super big impact, because we are 65 days out from the November general election. Every day gets worse for respective candidates, but we'll talk about the general trend that we're seeing in the Senate elections through this video. So the Republican Party, they've really messed up with a number of these races too. I'm going to make a video talking about where the Republican Party went wrong for the 2020 Senate elections. Obviously, this video is titled Where the Democrats Went Wrong in the 2020 Senate elections. There were a number of opportunities for the GOP and the Democratic Party that were just overlooked. Areas that the Democratic Party were previously competitive in and maybe competitive on the presidential level that aren't competitive on the Senate level. And that's a very unfortunate situation for a lot of these Democrats. When we're looking at some of these races, these are very qualified people. Just the lack of name recognition and the only thing under them is a 2018 bid or there's just a number of things as to why the Democrats wouldn't necessarily be competitive unless this was a midterm year. And now they're running in a year where Donald Trump is also on the ballot, which is going to move a lot of these states that sure may have voted for Democrats in 2018. It may move some of these districts and states a little bit to the right, just given that the Republican Party will likely be in full force as it is a presidential election. So will the Democratic Party, so we will see who comes out on top. But if we're talking about Republican-leaning districts, Republicans may not have voted in full force in 2018, and these areas might flip in 2020. But the Democrats, I really think, did do well in some of these states. I think it's due to lack of a good GOP candidate, for example, Kansas, or possibly even Kentucky. Mitch McConnell is the only Republican, despite being the Senate Majority Leader, who could make that state competitive on the Senate level, realistically. For the Democrats, I will say that they probably should have targeted some states earlier. Let's talk about some of these races really quickly and just go through the races that I think were actually good for the Democratic Party. States such as Arizona and states such as Colorado, I think, would be considered to be, they were good plays by the Democratic Party, without a doubt. Michigan, they have a Democrat incumbent. Can't really go wrong with there. Running Sarah Gideon is probably one of the best moves the Democrats did in the state of Maine. Cal Cunningham in North Carolina is performing very well. So these are all, I guess you could say, not missed opportunities, if that makes sense. These are all races that the Democratic Party has fielded great candidates in, and they are on track to win their election as it stands today. So that puts them at 50. The remaining 11 toss-up races, the Democratic Party is not favored to win in, at least based off the data that we have. And while they could necessarily win some of these, the Republican Party has tightened their grip on some of these states that realistically could have been much better for the Democratic Party. Let's talk about the first one. That's the state of Texas. I think Texas would have been a very good pickup opportunity for Beto O'Rourke. Had he continued campaigning following 2018, he probably would be the favorite to win the Senate race, and I'll tell you why. John Cornyn is outperforming Donald Trump because Donald Trump is unpopular in this state, and there is no alternative to him. MJ Heger, yes, she's a strong candidate, but she only has a 2018 House bid that she lost. And on top of that, the Democratic Party hasn't been focusing on Texas's Senate race too much. Beto O'Rourke took out a very huge stance against guns, something that would make him unelectable in Texas in the near future. Maybe he could win a presidential position. He definitely will be in Biden's cabinet, but returning to Texas to run for the Senate until it gets bluer is going to be not going to be too beneficial for the Democratic Party. I'll tell you that. Can you run in Texas on an anti-gun platform? Absolutely not. So in 2018, Beto O'Rourke didn't have this stance on guns. We would likely say that Beto O'Rourke's immediate, buyback gun program and immediate endorsement of Joe Biden was following his failed presidential campaign and then a jump to push left-wing voters onto Joe Biden on the primary. And, Beto O'Rourke, very, very good candidate. He speaks very similar to the likes of Obama. Same thing as Pete Buttigieg. These people are very good speakers, and they're very inspirational ones. Beto O'Rourke visited every single county in Texas. he could have done the same thing in 2020. And since he did do better than statewide Democrats in 2018, when Biden is only down by less than a percentage point in Texas, it begs the question, would Beto O'Rourke be ahead today? And I think the answer would be yes. I think Beto O'Rourke would narrowly be ahead. I don't think he'd win. I think he'd be ahead. I don't think Biden will win Texas. But I will say that the race definitely could be close. And while, yes, he will only have 2 failed Senate races on his belt and obviously serving as a congressional member, a lot of people that run in Republican states end up running for president and sometimes win. So Texas, I will say, was a missed opportunity, absolutely, for the Democrats. Now, I don't think the Democrats are going to win Kansas, but I think they actually did do this race pretty well. Barbara Boyer is probably one of the best candidates they could have put up, and she has fundraised more than any Senate candidate in Kansas history, $7 million to date. Alaska, Al Gross is actually a pretty good play, so I will say that the Democratic Party, while he is a registered independent, didn't necessarily, yes, they did make an impact on here because they combined primaries, but Al Gross is probably the best candidate to be running in the Alaska Senate race. As for Mississippi, running the same person who had a narrow loss to Cindy Hyde-Smith just 2 years prior, I would say is also a good move. I expect that to be the same exact result, but still the Democratic Party probably could have gone worse in that state. South Carolina, Jamie Harrison is a fundraising machine. I will say that this is a good play for the Democratic Party, but I still don't think that Lindsey Graham is going to win. I don't think Jamie Harris isn't going to win on Election Day. Now, the next missed opportunity is Georgia Senate special election, or even Georgia at large. These are 2 races that the Democratic Party could have fielded much better candidates than Jon Ossoff. And I believe, we won't even know, but I don't even think there's a Democratic leader right now. Right now, Doug Collins and Loeffler are right, I believe, 36-24, somewhere around there, to a point where the Democratic Party isn't even polling up in first or second place, which means the runoff election will likely be between 2 Republicans. Unfortunately for the Democratic Party, they have not coalesced around one candidate. While the mainstream Democratic Party has endorsed one, a guy with the last name Lieberman is leading him in the polls, which I think is fascinating. But the Georgia Democrats really could have ran someone. I mean, Stacey Abrams' reluctance to run really put this Georgia Senate race at risk. Stacey Abrams would have been a very good candidate, especially in a year such as this one, with an open seat running against someone who has been accused of insider trading, and Doug Collins, who also could be tied to, the incumbent governor of Georgia. There's just so many things that Stacey Abrams could have done right in the Senate election and could have made it competitive for the Democratic Party, at least way more competitive than it is right now. As for the Senate special election, she also could have, the Senate general election, regular election, she also could have ran there, which is why I think both of these seats are also missed opportunities. While Jon Ossoff is a good candidate and he is a good fundraiser, I don't think he'd be nearly as competitive as Stacey Abrams. There are other Democrats who could have came close, but she definitely would have been number 1 in my books. I mean, she would have been an amazing candidate had she ran in either of these 2 Senate elections. She comes from a 2018 governor bid that was plagued with voter suppression, which honestly I don't think is a political thing to say. Take a look at it objectively. Even if your party may have won, realistically, there were a lot of shady things going on in that Georgia governor election that just went right under the rug. I mean, literally the guy who's supposed to be counting votes is running for governor. You can't imagine that going well. But for Georgia and Georgia Senate special election, she definitely could have made these races super competitive. I think the Democratic Party really missed a shot at both of these Senate races. And, while it may only be one Senate race, the balance of power looks like it's going to end up being 50-50, which means one really could make a difference. But unfortunately for the Democrats, it's too late for her to enter in, and it looks like it's going to be Jon Ossoff and maybe even 2 Republicans on the ballot in the runoff election. So moving past there, I think the Republican Party, did well in fielding a candidate for Alabama Senate. The Democrats obviously couldn't have fielded anyone else. There's an incumbent. Honestly, it's fine. For Kentucky, I will say that Amy McGrath, there probably could have been another candidate who did better than her. I don't think it'll been Charles Brooker. You can't really run someone who stands for against what a number of Democrats and Republicans in Kentucky disagree with. I mean, Charles Booker, while sure is a progressive candidate and would be strong in another state, maybe not in Kentucky. You can't run a progressive candidate in a traditional conservative state and expect them to win. These are only winnable by conservative Democrats, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 elections. But other than that, progressive Democrats don't typically win statewide in Republican states, whereas centrist Democrats, as Kristen Sinema will show you, do. So Kentucky, I think the Democratic Party, while Amy McGrath isn't exactly the best candidate, I don't think it's necessarily a missed opportunity. It's a huge fundraising thing for the Democrats, but I think that's $45 million wasted on that Senate race. And for Iowa and Montana, these are in no way states that were given up by the Democratic Party. I mean, Iowa, they have Teresa Greenfield, great candidate. And then Montana, they have Steve Bullock, the incumbent Democratic governor, also a good play for the Democrats. So there's only 3 races on here that I consider to be missed opportunities, but at the end of the day, 3 is a lot. We have a matchup where we're ending up with 50 Democrats, 46 Republicans, 1 toss-up race, and 3 missed opportunities. This could have been a possibility where the Democrats got, assuming Stacey Abrams ran in 1 of the Georgia Senate elections, 2, assuming Beto O'Rourke ran immediately after 2018. I mean, could you imagine a Senate map? Per my most recent prediction, this would be the numbers if Stacey Abrams and Beto O'Rourke ran and they actually won their Senate races. But right now, I'm going to relook at Montana, which still puts them down at 52. But also, I mean, John Cornyn's likely to win now in the state of Texas, so give that one to the GOP. As for Georgia, this race is also expected to go to the incumbent David Perdue, so give that one to the GOP. So unfortunately for the Democratic Party, they did not field the best candidates in 2, or I guess you could say 3 of these races. They really could have done much better, but at the end of the day, some things just aren't meant to be, and sometimes you mess up, even if it's in a presidential election year. So let's go ahead and click here. That way I can get that's for another video. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord link for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2020 Senate election videos if you just want to see any in the future. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.